Okay, so the first step, we're going to weigh the 5 tablets of iron. We'll put a filter paper on the balance. First we'll switch it on. It's on. We'll put a filter paper on the balance. Then we're going to zero it. Then we'll weigh the tablets, the 5 tablets. We'll record the mass of the tablets, which is 1.6726 grams. From there, we're going to crush the tablets. We'll remove them from the balance and we'll crush them using a mortar and pestle. So make sure you crush to a fine powder. Now that the tablets are crushed, we're going to transfer the powder to a conical flask. So you try everything, and then we're going to dissolve the powder using 0.1 molar sulfuric acid. We're going to use 100 mils. This is the 100 mils, which I've already measured in a measuring cylinder. So since we remained with some powder, we'll first of all use some to dissolve the powder that remained in the mortar. Then we'll add so we'll continue dissolving the last bit of the powder that remained in the pestle, so that we make sure so that we make sure we transfer everything, all the powder that we've crushed, to your solution. If we don't transfer everything, we'll lose some of the iron, or we'll leave out some of the iron in the mortar. Okay. So at this point, all the iron in the 5 tablets has been transferred to this solution. Is in this solution. So we're going to shake vigorously. If we notice that there are some lumps down, we can use a stirring rod to break them, so that we dissolve everything. At this point, the lumps are gone, but if you notice, we still have a few of the powder which is not completely dissolved. So in order to dissolve the rest of the powder, we're going to heat. But in order for us not to overheat, we're going to measure the temperature of the solution before heating, and then we're only going to heat it 5 degrees above the solution at room temperature. So the solution is at 21. It's at 21.5 or just 21. So we're going to heat it up to 26 degrees Celsius. Okay. So as you can see, I've heated it to up to exactly 26 degrees Celsius. Okay. So now I'm going to start filtering it into a beaker. I've folded my filter paper and I'm going to pour the solution onto a filter paper so that I filter it. This may take a while, so as you wait, as I'm waiting, as you wait for this, you can prepare the potassium permanganate for titration. So I'm going to prepare the potassium permanganate for titration. So the main reason why we are filtering is to get rid of the undissolved binding material from the tablets. And now I'm going to wash out the few remaining solution from the conical flask and add it to the filter paper. So I'm adding distilled water. I'm just washing down everything and adding it to the filter paper. We're also going to filter it and add it to the solution. So there's still some bits of the solution that's remaining. So we'll continue washing. So now we'll wait for everything to filter. So now I'm going to wash the filter paper with distilled water. So add a bit of distilled water on the filter paper and we'll add the washings to the filtrate. So now we've filtered everything. Everything has been filtered, including the water that I just poured. Now we're going to transfer the filtrate into a 250 ml volumetric flask. Okay, so I get rid of this. And then we'll bring it to the mark using distilled water. So we'll add a bit of distilled water just to transfer the whole filtrate into the 250 ml volumetric flask. So your solution should be clear like this, not cloudy. If it's cloudy, it means the filtration did not take place as it should. So using distilled water, we'll bring it to the mark. So you add some more distilled water. Okay. I'm having trouble with the wash bottle. Okay, so now it's on the mark. Okay, so now I'm going to cover it and mix it thoroughly. So I'll cover with a stopper and mix it. Mix the solution thoroughly. Okay, so now after mixing, we are now going to start our titration. So after shaking, mixing everything, we're going to pour or transfer a bit of the solution, our iron solution, iron sulfate solution, into a beaker in order for us to pipette properly. So I'll use a 25 mils pipette, and I'm going to pipette exactly 25 mils of the filtrate, and I'll transfer it into a conical flask, and then I'll proceed with the titration. So this is exactly 25 mils. Yes, then we transfer it into the conical flask. At this point now I'm going to pipette. But before I pipette, so before I proceed with the titration, I'm going to add 25 mils. This is 25 mils of 0.1 molar, of 1 molar, sorry, of sulfuric acid. The reaction for iron and potassium permanganate takes place in an acidic medium, so that's why you have to add acid. And then we're not going to add any indicator, because the potassium permanganate which we're using for titration is self-indicating. As you can see, it already has color, so there's no need for us to add any indicator. So we're going to proceed with the titration. It's at 0 mark. So it's at 0, and now I'll start the titration. And notice that when we're doing titrations involving potassium permanganate, we take the readings from the top of the meniscus, because it's difficult to see the lower meniscus of the solution because of the dense color that it has. So I've started titrating. Please look out for the color change. So our end point would be the first change in color. So the color we're expecting is the color for the potassium permanganate. Of course, it shouldn't be very dark. If it becomes dark, that's overshooting. It should be very pale, but it should be a purple color. A pale purple color, which is pink. So that's our end point. So that's the color, the pale purple or pale pink. And the reading is 5.7 on the burette. So that's the one we're going to record. That's our first reading. We're going to record that, 5.7. You should repeat this for at least as many times as possible, but we'll repeat it for at least 3 times. So this is the second one. And like the first one, I'll add 25 mils of the acid. I've already pipetted 25 mils of the iron sulfate solution. Now I've added the acid, and then I'll proceed with the titration. My initial reading is 5.7, and then I'll titrate until the color change. So when we are close to the end point, we add drop by drop until the color changes. Okay, so there we have a color change. It's pink, a light pink. So our reading for this titration is 11.6. So if we subtract our initial reading, which was 5.7, if we subtract the 5.7 from there, we have 5.9. So our reading for this, the titer value for the second titration is 5.9. So I'll write down 5.9 mils as the titer value. So 11.6 mils. So for the third one, for the third trial, we're starting at our previous reading, which is 11.6. So I'm going to titrate the third one until there's a color change. So our color has changed for the last one, and the reading is 17.4. 17.4. So we'll record 17.4 and subtract 11.6, which gives us 5.8. So we have our three readings, which will be shared to you, which is 5.7, 5.9, and 5.8. Those are the three titer values for this titration.